Hi, my name's Keith from Keg King, and I just wanted to show you some of our new Intertap taps and also talk a little bit about the evolution of the tap and how we came to this particular design. Okay, so this is the first tap design, and these are very popular taps. You know, they're sold in many different brands and types, and yeah, they've really been around for donkey's years. They work okay, but they do have some key problems which usually create some issues, and especially if they're not really well maintained. So a lot of guys at home or a lot of bars who maybe don't maintain their taps as much as they should, they may notice that taps like these start to glue up. And that's mainly because when beer pours through the tap, the beer comes in here and exits out the nozzle down here into the glass. However, you do get a small amount of beer just go in front here, and it actually gets stuck just around this sort of hole here. And you can see on the front of the tap, you've got this sort of piston which sort of pushes in and out like that. You can sort of see that in the camera. And then a little bit of beer goes around this piston, and when that beer dries out, it starts to really clog the tap up. So when you sort of get like that, and eventually if you don't wash the tap for maybe a couple of weeks or more, it really starts to glue up quite severely. And sometimes it's so bad that when you come and try to open the tap, it's just glued shut completely. And I've seen people even snap the entire tap handle off when that's happened in really bad cases. But anyway, these are sort of really old design. A design which also there's this type as well, and there's different types of the same thing. Same again, this type, this is a sort of flow restrictor tap here, a little bit similar to like a Celli tap, I guess. This is originally sort of an Italian design. And then at the front of the tap, you can see it's got the same problem. It's got this sort of piston which is sliding back and forth, and a little bit of beer gets in around here, dries up, and it's not very sanitary. And yeah, they can start to cause issues, you know, later down the track. Now here's another tap. This is a Pearl design. I know Perlick have done a lot of these. And with the Pearl design, they've got rid of that sort of front sliding piston here altogether. So this whole piston has been removed. So if you look at the difference between the two taps, yeah, this one here, it doesn't have that sort of piston in the middle, which is going to clog up and cause problems. So this is a much more sanitary design, and they've been really popular over the past few years. I know in Australia there's been thousands and thousands of these sold, but they still are not quite perfect. I know a lot of Perlick taps, they have problems with leaking sometimes, especially if the O-rings inside are not lubricated or cleaned thoroughly on a regular basis. So this is a Pearl design tap, and as you can see with the Pearl design tap, we've got this blue handle here, and that moves back and forward. So it goes like this and then moves back and forward. And then this Pearl here, it seals up against this red O-ring here. And I'll just bring in another sheet of paper and see if I can draw this for you. So my drawing's not fantastic, but you get the idea. So with the Pearl styles of taps, they have an O-ring at the front here. So I'll draw the O-ring like that. Maybe I'll colour the O-ring a different colour. So I'll make this orange, let's say, or brown. And then we've got the handle, which comes in like this, and it's got a ball here. Then it's got another ball which sits in here, and this ball is joined to this tap handle like this, and it swings on a pendulum. So you end up with the movement of the ball swings approximately across that type of line there. So what happens is when you're using this type of Pearl tap, the handle pushes the ball against this O-ring to make the tap seal. The problem with that is when the ball is swinging on a pendulum in this type of fashion, it means that you don't always get even O-ring compression around the complete diameter of the O-ring. So what happens is, if let's say the tap shuts just gently, and you just sort of gently close it, the ball will sit a little bit like that, and it will press the lower O-ring a little bit harder. So you get like, you know, a little bit more O-ring compression on the lower O-ring and a little bit less on the higher O-ring. And then what happens is, the O-ring itself, it has this floating O-ring design where it can move around. So as long as it's well lubricated and the tap's really clean, that O-ring can move into place and adjust the height for where the ball is. But then if you push that tap a little bit harder, then it's going to push the O-ring slightly higher because of the pendulum effect. So let's say that the ball goes slightly further in, or maybe you're using slightly high keg pressure, for instance, which is pushing the ball closed a little bit harder, then it needs to push that O-ring upwards. And this sort of movement of the O-ring is what tends to cause some reliability issues with the Pearl design taps. So with our new Intertap taps, they're still forward sealing, so they have all the advantage of being more sanitary and pouring really well, just like a lot of other sort of forward sealing designs, except the Intertap taps, they use a sliding shuttle. So you can see in this tap, I'll just color in the shuttle piece here. Yeah, so the shuttle's just this piece in here. So with this sliding shuttle, we've got the O-ring, and that's mounted actually onto this recess in the shuttle. So every time the tap opens and closes, the O-ring is pressing in exactly the same position because the shuttle itself is holding the O-ring centered inside the tap cavity. So that's what makes this type of design much more reliable. You still get all the advantages of forward sealing, except yeah, you don't have the problem that you need an O-ring which needs to move up and down with the movement of the tap. I've actually got another cross-sectional tap view here. So here's actually one of our Intertap taps which have been chopped open. So you can see inside the tap, yeah, we've got the shuttle in here, and just when that opens, that goes backwards like that. And then you can see it open in place, and there's very little movement in the shuttle. It's a very, very snug fit between in the shuttle and the internal diameter of the tap cavity. So those very tight tolerances means it holds the O-ring in precisely the same position every time the tap moves open and shut. The other thing is, with the new Intertap taps, they have a few other advantages. Firstly, the spouts can be interchanged, so these spouts can be unscrewed and taken off. And then we have other different spout options. So let's say you want to start using some stout. We've got this stout nozzle, and the stout nozzle itself, it's just slightly longer than our traditional nozzle, except there's a perforated disc and a few other bits of mechanics in there. I'm not sure if you can see those little perforated holes in there, but yeah, and that just screws into the same nozzle, so they're completely compatible with our Intertap tap. So no need to go and change the tap over every time you're changing different beer styles. You just need to change the nozzle over to the correct type of beer style that you're going with. There's other things you can do as well, like growler filling nozzles. This has already been quite a popular one where you can just screw that in, and then it's got a barb on the front, so you can actually join some tubing like this. So if you're wanting to fill your own growlers at home or at a bar, then you just screw this onto the tap, and it'll fill the growler from bottom up and avoid getting a lot of fobbing. Yeah, there are two different types of Intertaps that we have at the moment. There's more Intertaps actually about to be released. We've got a flow restrictor model which is coming out soon, and also a new Pluto gun Intertap tap which is also coming out sort of later on the year. These two designs, they look identical actually, but they're slightly different. One's made out of a chrome-plated brass, and one's made out of a full stainless steel. So the entire thing, the handle, the couplings, the nozzle, everything is made out of stainless steel on the stainless steel one. On the chrome-plated brass one, we haven't spared any expense on the chrome plating, so it's a full proper electro-chrome plating. I know a lot of the cheaper sort of chrome taps that you often see sold, sort of the generic sort of Chinese ones, I guess, they often will use, like in the really bad ones, you often use like nickel coating, and some of the other cheap ones, they'll just use spray-on chrome plating. So the outside looks really nice, but then if you look internally, the chrome plating is quite poor, and in cases where there's no chrome plating inside at all, it becomes a bit of an issue, especially if you're using like caustic or acid-based sanitizers and cleaners. It starts to eat away at the chrome. So eat away at the brass actually, rather. But yeah, we've done a really nice chrome plating job on the chrome plated brass ones. Or look, if you've got a little bit of money in the budget, look, it's probably worth going for a full stainless steel one. And you know, for this type of equipment, it's going to last a lifetime. So yeah, that's a good option. Okay, now the last thing I wanted to show you was how we fit the springs to these taps. So we do have these springs sold separately, which you can then fit into the taps, and what it will do, the spring will make the tap automatically close when we let go of the handle. This can be particularly handy if maybe we've got some friends coming over for a party and you know they're not very good at using a keg system, they forget to turn the tap off completely or something like that, or maybe you just drink too many beers yourself and forget to turn the tap off, and you wake up in the morning, there's a whole keg on the floor. So yeah, the springs which can be fitted, they're pretty handy. They basically just go into the back of the tap like this, and then you get your shank. Now the Intertap taps can generally fit just about any shank. However, for the spring, they need this specific Intertap shanks. So they need the normal shanks that they now become the normal shanks that we sell at Keg King are all Intertap compatible. So anyway, you get one of these shanks, they just go on like this, and you screw that in. Whoops. Let's just get that right, there we go. So put that on there, and now the tap will automatically close it. Say open, let go, and it just closes on its own like that. The other thing to be a little bit aware about if you are installing the springs is there's a little tensioner here. So you know this little nut here, so you've got this tap handle. I might actually take it apart and just quickly show you. So you take that off, you take this collet off like that. Oops. And you undo this ring. And under there you can see this, there's actually a little washer in there. You probably ask, why do I need that washer in there? It's not actually the main sealing component, but what it does, that washer pushes up against these components on the top of the upper ball here, and that's the tensioner. So if I have this done up too tight, let me just do it up really tight, and I'll just see how tight I can get that done up. Now if I do that and then I put this all together, you can see actually the spring, it doesn't actually work, because what I've done is put so much tension on this piece at the bottom here that, actually, I don't know if I can get it undone. There we go. Okay, so just loosen that off, and you'll notice, yeah, it just can't be too ridiculously tight because the spring's got to overcome the tap resistance, I suppose. So also, if you like a soft touch on your tap, you don't like to have to pull very hard, not like a nice little soft touch like that, then it's good to not have this too tight as well, because it will just sort of mean that you have to pull really hard on your tap. And yeah, you need the spring to overcome that tension. So just have it just sort of snug like that with your finger, and then and that's the way to set the spring up. All right, that's pretty much it about the Intertap. So look, I hope you guys love using them. Yeah, we're working really hard at the moment to bring out a whole lot of new nozzles as well. So English sparkler nozzles will be coming out eventually, and then also have some counter pressure bottle filling nozzles too, where you actually connect the gas to the nozzle and stuff like that. So we've got some really, really cool stuff which we're working on, which you should see soon. Also some different types of drip-free nozzles, like the Teflon coated and stuff like that. So playing around with lots of really cool stuff, and yeah, basically just watch this space.